Before we end this podcast, Ad, I just want to say, we love you, Tom Wagner. Thank you for everything you've done for this club. But please don't ever wear a claret eye and a blue shirt again.
Yeah.
What was that about?
I saw people that someone says Gary Cook should have a word about his attire. I think one of the comments as well. Yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, Dad, I think this is great. And for me, this was all about keeping pressure on the government and councils and just making sure this conversation is still at the top of the agenda for Blues, for Wagner, and making sure we can push ahead with it.
So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue. And it's been no secret that Birmingham City have plans to build a new sports quarter, including a brand new stadium, sometime in the relatively near future. Now, this week, on Monday, Tom Wagner made headline news when he attended an event in London where he was lobbying the government in order to try and find support for the project. In this podcast, myself and Matt are going to talk about this because it did raise a lot of questions, particularly a reaction from fans from other clubs and Birmingham City supporters. And we just want to have a quick chat about the implications of what was said and what it means for the future of the project. So, Matt, you saw what Tom said. Any initial thoughts?
Well, first of all, what was hugely amusing and entertaining was the volume of tweets and comments from our neighbours in B6. They were sharing it all over the place, completely losing it. And normally on Twitter, you put a comment on, or they were sharing it on their pages directly. They were absolutely, it was just absolutely hilarious. But, let's not forget here, Tom Wagner is a businessman. He's about to invest $3 billion into Birmingham City. For me, this was all about keeping the pressure on the government, the pressure on the councils, And if you're going to invest $3 billion in a very rundown part of the city, and everyone knows Birmingham needs investment, especially that part of Birmingham, you want to at least make sure there's accessibility, that people can get to and from there. And Tom Wagner doesn't just want accessibility for fans of Birmingham City. He wants people coming from London, from Manchester, from the big cities around the UK, even from other parts of Europe. He wants it to be a hub. So for me, this was a conversation about keeping the pressure on government and councils.
Yeah, and this was always going to happen. This is actually good news for Birmingham City, and I do find it amusing, that those fans from the the village across the expressway, just jumping on this as if it's a problem. Actually, it's a really good thing. I'll explain why. In fact, actually, it provided more positivity for me than before, because it told me that if Tom Wagner is lobbying for sort of people to get sort of on board in terms of the council and the government, he's very, very serious about the project. So it's definitely going to happen. Shall I just very quickly read out what are some of the things that he said? And this is very short. Okay, just you may have seen the interview on ITV, but what he said, or the key things that he said, was the key things are faster planning, certainty of reasonably priced energy, and ultimately better transport. It's very difficult to get out of our existing stadium, and we all know that. St.Andrews at Knighthead Park, and we're looking to bring double the capacity, and then having people live here, having folks work here or stay here in hotels when they visit Birmingham. We've a lot of activity going on this site, and we'll be constructing, so you need much better transport infrastructure in the local community to make that work. Without that, it makes it very difficult to do. So we really need to focus on making these things come to fruition. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. There's nothing in there that says that this project is not going to go ahead. He's just saying what we actually need to make it work. And if you think about it, it's completely understandable that if you're an American that's coming to a completely different country to invest 2.5 to 3 billion pounds, you can't just plonk a sports quarter and a huge capacity stadium and not think about, well, actually, how do people get in and out the site? And it doesn't work that way. So this process, Tom Wagner coming to London for this meeting, is actually part of the natural process of getting more information about what others can contribute to this project.
Absolutely. And this is the second time Wagner's done something like this. Do you remember when HS2 was announced that they're going to cut off the second half of the leg on HS2? He lobbied against the government, saying, I'm investing a serious amount of money into Birmingham. Maybe all things should be considered, that actually it's not the best thing for, jobs and the best thing for travelling around the country, all these different things. So he's done it before with HS2, and, as we said, the key point, if you're investing that pure volume of money, he's going to create jobs, he's going to create houses. This is huge for the city. Everyone in Birmingham should be getting behind this because it's huge for the city in general. And, a lot of people in Birmingham feel like we've kind of been left behind a little bit. London gets a lot of investment. They've got Crossrail. They had the Olympics in 2012. Lots of projects pop up where London seems to get a lot of finances, whereas your cities like your Birminghams and your Manchesters have kind of been left behind a little bit. This is a huge chance from a private investor to create jobs, create houses, create an entertainment hub. Imagine there's going to be international games there. There's going to be concerts here. It's going to be absolutely massive. It's going to be a completely new sort of city within a city. So, as I say, Wagner's protecting his investment. He wants to make sure when this investment does happen, the links, the accessibility, and the fundamental groundwork is in place for this to work. Because who wants to waste £2.5 billion? It's a serious amount of money.
But what people don't realise is that that's just the build cost. Okay,
Yeah.
but the actual value to Birmingham, the city, and to the UK in terms of the economy over
Massive.
many years is going to be billions of pounds into the economy through jobs and revenue and all sorts of other things. Because obviously you build a venue that's going to attract loads and loads of people, and everybody in that area benefits. Going to restaurants and shops and hotels, and there's travel and everything. Everything just improves in terms of profitability and revenue because of the more people.
Just to put that into context, Taylor Swift's recently been on like a European tour. Apparently, I don't know the ins and outs and the specifics, so please, don't shoot me down or correct me in the comments. That's fine. But when Taylor Swift came to London, even her 3 concerts at Wembley provided millions for the local economy because the pubs were packed, the hotels were booked. And again, it just plays into that point is when you can attract megastars and have these big events. Millions into the economy, billions into the economy over years. So this is a huge thing for Birmingham. This is a huge thing for the city, and it's a huge thing for the country.
And don't forget, mate, it's regenerating a really downtrodden area of Birmingham as well. It's one that's been sort of derelict in parts and underdeveloped for many years and neglected, let's say, for many years. You're going to revive that and bring it up to a standard that Tom Wagner and Knighthead are suggesting. It's going to be a massive plus for the city. But also as well, I think that what's important to realise as well, Birmingham City Council themselves haven't got any money. They're bankrupt or on the borders of bankrupt anyway. They've got no money. So there's no, and I know that Tom Wagner has been in talks with Birmingham City Council on a regular basis, but it can't just be about them because they are not going to be able to contribute themselves. But then you've got the Mayor of the West Midlands as well, who's been involved. We'll talk about that in a second, actually. That brilliant podcast, actually, that went out today from...
Keep Right On.
Keep
Brilliant
Right On.
podcast,
Yeah,
guys.
that's with, if you haven't seen that, that's with Alex Dickin, Brian Dick, and Jane, I've got her name in a minute. Jane Haynes from Birmingham Live. Some good to have a look at that. That's fantastic. But all of this is part and parcel of Tom Wagner really setting the wheels in motion now to get this started. This type of project, there's a lot of work he's doing up front before it can actually get started. So the sports quarter, when completed, is going to contribute to, it's not just about a stadium for Birmingham City.
No, it's not.
It's about all the other work as well that's going around that and for the sports quarter. That's going to generate a huge amount of money for the Birmingham and the UK economy. And I say the investment is Tom Wagner's doing this because he's bringing American money into the UK. So therefore, the Birmingham City Council, the UK government have to be happy with this because and encourage it because they want to generate more more value to the economy, more revenue. And this is there ain't going to be many schemes like this where overseas investors will bring this amount of money, £2 to £3 billion just in construction costs or infrastructure costs. And then the wider benefit, there can't be many projects around that could possibly do that.
It's incredible, isn't it? It really is. And it's going to be something to behold. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. This place is going to be just incredible. If you think about like Broad Street and Digbeth, the Arcadian area, on nights out, they get really buzzing and lively. Imagine like a completely separate part of the city that's like a sports court that's going to have nightlife and cinemas and restaurants and obviously the Blue Stadium training complex. It's going to be absolutely out of this world. And what I was really reassured to hear, Dad, and this comes back to the Keep It On podcast again, brilliant podcast that was, that Jane Hayes spoke about the Mayor of Birmingham and she said...
Mayor of West Midlands.
Sorry, Mayor of the West Midlands, apologies. That he wants this investment to happen. He wants to work with Wagner and Blues to get it done. And there's a great collective to get this done. And she just boiled it down to lobbying, just using that thing to put the pressure on the government, making sure these conversations are still happening, all these things. And, the fact that we're able to attract 2.53 billion worth of investment into this city, that can't be sniffed at. And it's really good to hear that the Mayor of the West Midlands is looking to be actively engaged and wants to move it forward.
Yeah, it's a big thing, isn't it?
Huge.
Imagine the Mayor of the West Midlands, actually being involved in a project of this nature. It's good for the Mayor as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of what they can potentially offer and what they can potentially do. But, what you got to think about what Tom Wagner's actually saying as well. He's completely true. He's saying that he said a few things, but one of them was this, we've got to improve traffic links. We all know around Birmingham City Stadium, it's awful.
It's awful.
And traffic, travel, transport on a match day, it's absolutely, it really is bad, isn't it?
It's horrible.
So then,
I mean, Garrison Lane alone, it's just a nightmare.
And he's saying that's what it's like at the moment. But then we're suddenly going to build not just a stadium, but a really bigger stadium to attract even more people and other venues. So therefore, there's going to be even more traffic. So it makes sense that he would be saying, well, you need to help us out here a little bit. When we come to talk about what Jane Haynes said, and I've just got a little bit myself on that, which adds to what you actually said, which is really interesting. She talked about the investment. But also one thing we can't forget as well is that Knighthead have already bought the site. So this is not pie in the sky, shall we do this, in terms of we need to acquire land. Initially, they bought a 48-acre land, and they've been buying up parcels of land around that now. So another 12 acres have been bought. So there's 60 acres worth of land now available for development. That's bought and paid for. So that is something that has cost X amount of millions. But I know the initial purchase was £50-odd million for the 48 acres, wasn't it? That's done as well. And also as well, when HS2 is finished, when the hub in Curzon Street is completed in Birmingham City Centre, there needs to be a more natural route from that or Birmingham City Centre to the stadium or the sports quarter, because at the moment it's lots of little narrow roads, and it's not an easy place to get to. And I think that's what Tom Wagner's talking about when he's talking about transport links. He's not just talking about roads or anything like that. He's talking about pathways and the journey as well.
Apparently, when the new HS2 is built on Curzon Street, it's going to be a 10-minute walk from the new centre that's being proposed. That's incredible. That's automatically a huge green tick for Wagner, isn't it? The fact that you can get on HS2 and when you land in Birmingham, you're only a 10-minute walk away from the sports complex. Incredible. And that's the exact conversations he's talking about. When you get to Birmingham, when you arrive in Birmingham, foot, train, car, how easy is it to get to this sports quarter? And at the minute, it's a nightmare. So he wants to ease that. Even getting to the Blues ground by train's a nightmare. Walking from our car's a nightmare. Driving's a nightmare. There's no good way to get to St.Andrews.
Well, actually, talking about trains, actually, is a point I've got as well. Where the new site will be, it's not that far from Adderley Park train station, but Adderley Park, it's only a small station, so possibly an upgrade could be to increase the capacity of that station. So when they have got events, there's more regular trains going from the city centre, which it's only going to take 5 minutes by train, but it'll take you virtually on the doorstep of that. So that could be a possibility as well. I do want to go back to this Jane Haynes and what she said as well, which I found really, really interesting. Once again, thanks for that podcast. But I was going to read a paragraph what I wrote from that she actually said. So she said that, and she's if people don't know who she is, she's the people and political editor for Birmingham Live, and she talked about her recent own conversations with the West Midlands Mayor Richard Parker, who said he's in regular contact with the government and fully supports the project. And they're talking about collaborating, like you said, to make things happen. So forging these links. Also said that Tom Wagner, during the event on Monday, was also there, that the whole event was designed to attract investors to the West Midlands, not just to that project, but it was a wider event that they were actually doing. And also she felt that what Tom Wagner did by attending that was excellent lobbying tactics and what he needed to do. And she also said, which I found was really interesting, she said the whole project could cost in total up to around about £6 billion in total. And
£6 billion.
But that wouldn't be expecting Tom Wagner and Knighthead to put in another 2.53 billion. That would be things like infrastructure and other potential funding from local and central government. I mean, she didn't say exactly those words, but she mentioned other type of funding would be needed, maybe even private partners as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to happen here.
I mean, when you look at Wagner, Dad, look at the partnerships he's made. Undefeated, Delta, Pepsi I'm seeing around the ground now as well. He's not going to shy away from getting money from other sources. He seems to be a master at sponsorships, deals, getting money, revenue. Look at the revenue we've seen over at Birmingham City over the past season and a half now. Incredible. minds at the wheel, incredible businessmen, incredible investors. They know what they're doing, and I have no doubt he's going to be pulling money left, right, and centre to get this sorted.
He's really ambitious, and he's really successful, and he's really driven, and he's keen to. From what also Jane said, was he's keen to try and find ways to try and understand the issues and try and resolve and get over the obstacles. So she actually went on to say that he's keen to get the project moving as quickly as possible, and just to. We're talking to Birmingham Council and the Mayor and everybody else to try and find ways to remove those barriers. Planning was mentioned as one of the issues because in this country it's well known that our planning system is really convoluted and slow. But Tom Wagner's not used to working that way, so he wants to try and find ways in which the planning process can be speeded up for to get things happen. So if anything, all this negative comments from fans from other clubs and all the negative about is the project, are we having doubts or stuff like that, everything that's happened here in this meeting is actually added fuel to the fire that this project is definitely going to get done. It's done the exact opposite. Because, people want Birmingham City to fail, don't they? They want to fear the worst and they want to point the finger and laugh, it's not happening. But actually, when people actually read what Tom Wagner and Knighthead are planning here, I can see why they're jealous.
Also, he never said it weren't happening. He said it makes it more difficult. That's the exact wording you would use when you want to pull someone's arm to help with the accessibility and the funding and to make it work. He's just a smart businessman. And before we end this podcast, Ad, I just want to say, we love you, Tom Wagner. Thank you for everything you've done for this club. But please don't ever wear a claret eye and a blue shirt again. What was that about?
I saw people that. Someone says Gary Cook should have a word about his attire. I think one of the comments as well.
But no, in all seriousness, Dad, I think this is great, and for me this was all about keeping pressure on the government and councils and just making sure this conversation is still at the top of the agenda for Blues, for Wagner, and making sure we can push ahead with it.
So as always, we'd love to know what you think about the development at the old Wheels site and about the new sports quarter, and we invite other fans as well to make comments as we always do. Just to remind anybody, if you are going to leave a comment, please make sure that you don't use any swearing, abusive language or aggressive behaviour, because we don't allow that. We are a family podcast. But please feel free to add a comment, and me and Matt are always happy to read them and to respond to them. But it is exciting times for Birmingham City, isn't it? And this project is going to go ahead, and it's looking forward to seeing in the future how and what the stadium and the sports quarter will look like. If you did like this podcast, then don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't checked us out on our social media channels already, make sure you pop along to our X page and Instagram page. And if you do like to watch or listen to your podcast on Spotify, you'll also find us there as well. And you'll see the handles appearing on the screen for all of these right now. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, then make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future content all about Birmingham City. And myself and Matt will see you on the next video.